Pangu was the first living being and the creator of all in some versions of Chinese mythology. The Panga Legend, the first writer to record the myth of Pangu was Zhu Zheng during the Three Kingdoms period. Recently his name was found in a tomb dated 194 AD. In the beginning there was nothing in the universe except a formless chaos. This chaos coalesced into a cosmic egg for about 18,000 years. Within it, the perfectly opposed principles of yin and yang became balanced, and Pangu emerged from the egg. Pangu is usually depicted as a primitive, hairy giant who has horns on his head and wears furs. Pangu began creating the world. He separated yin from yang with a swing of his giant axe, creating the earth and the sky. To keep them separated, Pangu stood between them and pushed up the sky. This task took 18,000 years. With each day the sky grew 10 feet higher, the earth 10 feet thicker, and Pangu 10 feet taller. In some versions of the story, Pangu was aided in this task by the four most prominent beasts, namely the turtle, the klin, a phoenix, and the dragon. After the 18,000 years had elapsed, Pangu died. His breath became the wind, mist and clouds. His voice, thunder. His left eye, the sun. His right eye, the moon. His head, the mountains and extremes of the world. His blood, rivers. His muscles, fertile land. His facial hair, the stars and Milky Way. His fur, bushes and forests. His bones, valuable minerals. His bone marrow, sacred diamonds. His sweat, rain. And the fleas on his fur carried by the wind became animals. The goddess Na-1/4 then used clay to form humans. These humans were very smart since they were individually crafted. Na-1/4 then became bored of individually making every human, so she dipped a rope in clay and the blobs that fell from it became new humans. These new humans were not as smart as the original ones. Origin of Pangu. Three main views describe the origin of the Pangu myth. The first is that the story is indigenous and was developed or transmitted through time to Zhu Zheng. Senior scholar Wei Juxian states that the Pangu story is derived from stories during the Western Zhou dynasty. He cites the story of Tsang and Li in the Chuayu section of the ancient classics Guoyu. In it, King Tsao of Chu asked Guanqifu a question: what did the ancient classic Zoshu mean by the sentence that Tsang and Li caused the heaven and earth to disconnect from each other? The Zoshu sentence he refers to is about an earlier person, Liu Crossing, who converses with King Mu of Zhou. King Mu's reign is much earlier and dates to about 1001 to 946 BC. In their conversation, they discuss a disconnection between heaven and earth. Dirk Bod linked the myth to the ancestral mythologies of the Mu people and Yao people in southern China. An indirect but possibly more substantive conclusion is that China is unique in not creating its creator. In this view, Zhu Zheng, or a relatively recent predecessor, perpetuates the Pangu myth from other cultural influences. Professor Qin Nachang, head of the Guangxi Institute for Nationality Studies, proposes the myth originated in Laban City, Guangxi, in the center of the Pearl River Valley. He suggested that the Pangu myth from this region originally involved two people. He also suggests that this Chinese Pangu myth had come from India, Egypt, or Babylon and mingled with the origin stories of other cultures, eventually changing into the later narrative more popular today. This is Professor Qin's reconstruction of the true creation myth preceding the myth of Pangu. Note that it is not actually a creation myth. A brother and his sister became the only survivors of the prehistoric deluge by crouching in a gourd that floated on water. The two got married afterwards, and a mass of flesh in the shape of a whetstone was born. They chopped it and the pieces turned into large crowds of people, who began to reproduce again. The couple were named Pan and Gu in the Tsuang ethnic language, which stand for whetstone and gourd respectively. Paul Carus writes this. Pángǔ unregistered trademark and Ku, the basic idea of the I philosophy was so convincing that it almost obliterated the Taoist cosmology of Pángǔ unregistered trademark and Ku, who is said to have chiseled the world out of the rocks of eternity. Though the legend is not held in high honor by the literati, it contains some features of interest which have not as yet been pointed out and deserve at least an incidental comment. Pa unregistered trademark Pangu is written in two ways. One means in literal translations, a Ua basin ancient euro, the other a Ua basin solid euro. Both are homophones, that is, they are pronounced the same way. And the former may be preferred as the original and correct spelling. Obviously the name means a Euro aboriginal abyss, a Euro or in the Tercer German, Ergrund, and we have reason to believe it to be a translation of the Babylonian Tiamat, a Euro deep a Euro. The Chinese legend tells us that Pa unregistered trademark and Ka unregistered trademark S bones changed to rocks, his flesh to earth, his marrow, teeth and nails to metals, his hair to herbs and trees, his veins to rivers, his breath to wind, and his four limbs became pillars marking the four corners of the world, a Euro, which is a Chinese version not only of the Norse myth of the giant Ymir, but also of the Babylonian story of Tiamat. Illustrations of Pa unregistered trademark Pangu represent him in the company of supernatural animals that symbolize old age or immortality, viz., the tortoise and the crane. Sometimes also the dragon, the emblem of power, and the phoenix, the emblem of bliss. When the earth had thus been shaped from the body of Pa unregistered trademark Pangu, we are told that three great rivers successively governed the world, first the celestial, then the terrestrial, and finally the human sovereign. They were followed by young Ka unregistered trademark Eng and Sui Zhen, the later being the Chinese Prometheus, who brought the fire down from heaven and taught man its various uses. The Prometheus myth is not indigenous to Greece, where it received the artistically classical form under which it is best known to us. The name, which by an ingenious afterthought is explained as a Euro forethinker, a Euro is originally the Sanskrit pramantha and means a Euro twirler, a Euro or a Euro fire stick, a Euro being the rod of hardwood which produced fire by rapid rotation in a piece of soft wood. We cannot deny that the myth must have been known also in Mesopotamia, the main center of civilization between India and Greece, and it becomes probable that the figure Sui Zhen has been derived from the same prototype as the Greek Prometheus. The missionary and translator James Legge criticized Pangu. Pangu is spoken of by the common people as the first man, who opened up heaven and earth. It has been said to me in pidgin English that he is all the same your Adam. And in Taoist picture books I have seen him as a shaggy, dwarfish, Hercules, developing from a bear rather than an ape, and wielding an immense hammer and chisel with which he is breaking the chaotic rocks. Other Chinese creation myths. The Pangu myth appears to have been preceded in ancient Chinese literature by the existence of Shangdi or Tiat. Other Chinese myths, such as those of Nuwa and the Jade Emperor, try to explain how people were created and do not necessarily explain the creation of the world. There are many variations of these myths. The Pangu myth and Buea culture. According to Buea mythology, after Pangu became an expert in rice farming after creating the world, he married the daughter of the Dragon King, and their union gave rise to the Buea people. The daughter of the Dragon King and Panga had a son named Xinheng. When Xinheng disrespected his mother, she returned to heaven and never came down, despite the repeated pleas of her husband and son. Panga was forced to remarry and eventually died on the 6th day of the 6th month of the lunar calendar. Xinheng's stepmother treated him badly and almost killed him. When Xinheng threatened to destroy her rice harvest, she realized her mistake. She made peace with him, and they went on to pay their respects to Panga annually on the 6th day of the 6th month of the lunar calendar. This day became an important traditional Buea holiday for ancestral worship. This legend of creation is one of the main characteristics that distinguishes the Buea from the Zhuang. Panga worship. Pangu is worshipped at a number of shrines in contemporary China, usually with Taoist symbols, such as the Bagua. The Pangu King Temple built in 1809 is located in Guangdong Province, northwest Hodu District, north of Xiling Town at the foot of the Pangu King Mountain. The Hodu District is located north of Guangzhou to the west of the Baiyun International Airport. See also, Pángǔ, Pángǔ, meteoritic mineral named after Pangu, discovered in 2012, first man or woman, Manu, Tiamat, Yama, Ymir. References, notes. Sources: Zhu Zheng, in the book 3-5 Historic Records, is the first to mention Pangu in the story Panga separates the sky from the earth. Ji Hong, in the book Master of Preserving Simplicity Inner Writings, describes Pangu. Wang Zun, in the book Classified Anthology of Literary Works, also refers to Pangu. Karras, Paul, in the book Chinese Astrology, Early Chinese Occultism based on an earlier book by the same author Chinese Thought, this book was a bestseller.